The 30-man shortlist for the Ballon d'Or has been released, and I'm gonna be giving you my personal rankings. Before we start, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and share. Let's get road to 2K, right? So in number 30, I had Denzel Dumfries. Look, who invited my man? He scored some big goals, scored against Barca, scored against Inter, scored against Juve, but he wasn't even Inter's best defender. I don't know how he made it. And same case can be said for our next number 29, Lautaro Martinez. By his standards, or based on last season, he's had a massive drop-off in the league. He had a good Champions League campaign, scored against Bayern, scored against Barca, but his league campaign was underwhelming. He was outperformed by the likes of Keane, Retegi, Lukaku. So I don't know how he made it here as well. I think Barella should have taken his place. At number 28, this is gonna be Florian Wirtz. Look, during the Invincible season, he was colossal for Leverkusen, going up, forward, scoring in some big moments. But based on last season as well, if you hear me out, I don't think he was in that level anymore. You can talk about the group stage all you want, but when in the knockouts, he was injured against Werder Bremen in the league, so he missed the knockouts against Bayern. So he wasn't really that much. It wasn't really that much crucial as to Leverkusen as far as last season was concerned. That's why I had him 28th. 27th for me, I had Alexis McAllister, probably Liverpool's best midfielder. It's actually surprising how he's so underrated, even by his own fan base. Because you can make a case when Liverpool won the league, you can talk about, yes, they were in title celebrations, but the last 4 games, McAllister didn't play, and Liverpool didn't win either. So he's already that crucial to Liverpool, and in big games, steps up massively for Liverpool. Even without a goal or an assist, the way he just controls that Liverpool midfield, insane. But I had him 27th. 26th for me was Scott McTominay. Look, definition of a redemption arc. Colossal and Antonio Conte, scored some big goals in title deciding matches, including the first goal against Cagliari, which gave Napoli the Scudetto. He was colossal, even was Serie A MVP. But for me, I had him 26th because he did it much more on the league. We didn't be able to see him on a bigger stage like the Champions League. They only won the Scudetto, so but I had him 26th. Because in 25th, I had Fabian Ruiz. Look, he always goes under the radar for PSG. A lot of credit usually goes to Neves and Vitinha. However, he has been just as crucial to PSG as them two there. Won the quadruple, scored some fantastic goals as well. Even ignore even the goals. Even for club and country, he just usually goes under the radar. Yeah, like in the Euros, for me, he should have been player of the tournament over Rodri, I think. Yeah, I think he was the best Spain midfielder. And I had him 25th because I couldn't really fit him much. You'll see there by top 20 and you will see what I'm trying to say. But I had Fabian 25th, crucial player for PSG. Now, 24th, I had Vinicius Jr. Look, tomatoes will be thrown at me. But in 2025, Vini has just been atrocious. I don't know whether it has something to do with the Ballon d'Or incident back in October. I had him 24th. Look, I can't write off the entire season that he was bad, because even after the Ballon d'Or, late in 2024, he was still very, very crucial for Real Madrid. But just in 2025, the guy said he promised to do it 10 times if he has to. But 10 times, I don't know whether he meant the failed rainbow flicks, because the guy has been atrocious for Real Madrid. There were even points where Real Madrid fans were saying Vini should be sold, Vini out. That just explains I had him 24th. And I will also be throwing tomatoes for our number 23, Cole Palmer. Look, I'm not a recency bias guy. He had a great final against Paris Saint-Germain, but I can't just ignore the fact that he went for almost 2-3 months without scoring an open play goal, and the guy scored like 3 open play goals in 6 months. And the way he has just disappeared in this second half of the season, I can't look away from that. But he had a great final against Paris Saint-Germain, also had a great final against Real Betis in the Conference League. However, I can't just deem him higher because of just 2 games when he was ghost for the rest of the games. Because I think for me, Caicedo should have taken the place here. I don't know how he didn't make it to the 30-man shortlist. Number 22, I had Sergio Guirassy. Look, not many people had him in Ballon d'Or conversations, but you have to agree that he's been Dortmund's best player. And he has carried that meaty Dortmund team on its back. So Guirassy, for me, I had him 22nd, top scorer in the Champions League as well. That is very, very crucial. And he also had a hat-trick against Barca, carried Dortmund to a Champions League place when they were around 9th, 10th, 11th, even Club World Cup. I thought he had a very good Club World Cup for Dortmund in spite of Dortmund struggling a lot. I had Guirassy 22nd. My number 21, I had Declan Rice. Look, not many people had him on the shortlist for the Ballon d'Or. People are just going to come here and talk about the 2 free kicks. But for those people who actually watched Declan Rice can tell you, he did much better at the Bernabeu than at the Emirates when he scored the 2 free kicks. Look, Arsenal has been a team that has had their injury issues. Saka goes down, Saliba goes down, Gabriel goes down. For me, he was Arsenal's best player of this, Arsenal's player of the season, Arsenal's best player. Him and Gabriel were at par, but I just had Rice higher because of the injury for Gabriel. And Rice has been very, very crucial for the Arsenal. And big game Rice, we all know what big game Rice can do. So I had him 21st slightly because he needs more silverware to his name. Because if he would have won maybe something this season, he could have been higher, but that's not his fault. The team went down and he was the one putting the team on its back. So this goes to my top 20, and at number 20, I had Desiree Doué. Look, I'm not that nostalgia merchant again. I can't have him that high because in the first half of the season, he wasn't really that much of a PSG starter. He didn't really impose himself for PSG that much. I think by that time, Barcola was the one taking the spotlight, who I think, that's just my opinion, Barcola should have been nominated. However, he in the second half of the season, he's just gradually grown and become so important for PSG, especially in the knockouts during the quadruple. But hey, 2GA in a Champions League final, I can't look away from that. However, I can't have him that much high because of the first half of the season. If you would have had a stronger first half of the season, I would move him higher. But based on that, I just have him scraping just at 20th. At number 19, I had Victor Gyökeres. Look, top scorer in Europe, scored 54 goals, all being in the Portuguese league though. But I can't just look away from the fact that he also had a colossal Champions League campaign. At least scored a hat-trick against City. And I can't look away from the fact that he helped Sporting retain the Portuguese league and won the cup double, all against their rivals Benfica, and he was involved in both of those games. So I can't just look away from that, but it's in the Portuguese league. Let's see if we can be able to do that in the Premier League. He just moved to Arsenal recently, but hey, I couldn't have him that high because of the Portuguese league as well, because I think let's see what he can do in the Premier League. Number 18, I had Erling Haaland. Look, by Erling Haaland's standards, this was an off-season. And you can make a case his off-season is most people's best season. But to him, it was an off-season. I couldn't have him much higher because Manchester City recorded a massive drop-off. There was a time even he experienced a goal drought. But I can't really blame him much for that because City didn't sign a Rodri backup. Rodri went down. The defense kept constantly getting injured. The defense was all over the place at times. The midfield at times could not keep up with the pace of the, let's say, strong, energetic midfields. But that's not because of Haaland. Because I think Erling Haaland, for me, he didn't have his best season by his standards, but he just had okay season because he scored 30 goals and has scored 30 goals in 3 seasons for City. I can't fathom him. I can't blame him that much. He was also stopped up in some big games for City. Scored against Real Madrid. a brace against Real Madrid, scored home and away against Arsenal, scored home and away against Chelsea, scored away against Spurs. Can't really blame him much for that. Stepped up in some big games for City. It's just that the team wasn't up high enough to compete, but that's not his fault. But I had him in 18th in my shortlist. Number 17, I had Lewandowski. Look, under Flick, he's looked like a rejuvenated man. Even though you can make a case, he does miss a lot of chances though. But I think even when he went down with the injury, Barca didn't really miss him that much. And I don't think, based on the impact of those Barca players, yes, he has a big impact because he's the goal scorer. But he didn't really have that much impact at the rest, the likes of Yamal, Pedri, Rafinha, because even Ferran Torres did a good job for him. But I can't just ignore that he scored like 44 goals and he was also imperial under Flick. But I had him in 17th because I think for me, he misses a lot of chances a lot. And even Barca fans, you can't agree. He scores, yes, can score a hat-trick, can score a brace, but he misses like 7-8 chances as well. At number 16, I had Kvaratskhelia. Look, he went to PSG, left Napoli, went to PSG. For me, was very, very crucial, especially with how PSG won the UCL. I think for me, his dynamic pace on the left-hand side provided a much-needed boost for PSG, especially in their run for the Champions League. Stepped up in some massive, massive games. But I couldn't have him that much higher because he had his time he was, the first half of the season, he was at Napoli. He was okay at Napoli, but at PSG he's been colossal. But going away with the 4 trophies, I had him 16th. Now, in 15th, I had Virgil van Dijk. Look, best defender in the Premier League this season, has been very, very crucial for Liverpool as well. At the back, yeah, everybody goes down, he's the one that steps up, he's the one that leads the way for Liverpool. First Dutch defender to actually win the Prem. Congratulations to first Dutch captain to win the Prem. Congratulations to him. But I couldn't have him that, okay, I had him in 15th, which I think Liverpool fans can agree with me. That's fair. That's fair for Van Dijk. And hopefully he could have done it more in the Champions League, but they went out very, very early. But I had Van Dijk in 15th. In 14th, I had Jude Bellingham. Look, I don't know how people are fuming with Bellingham being here, because the way he's put Real Madrid on its back, him alongside Mbappe were the only players in Real Madrid who are trying. I don't know whether the others are just taking the piss. Him alongside Mbappe were the only ones trying, yeah? He'd go to the center half, pick the ball, drive the ball forward. He'd go, and he's the one that basically is the one driving this team, yeah? When Real Madrid were in this sort of trauma because of losing the Ballon d'Or, when everyone was losing their minds, he is the only one that has actually put this team on his back, and he's been the driving force for Real Madrid. Obviously, there were some periods where he got injured, and you could actually see it that they really missed Jude Bellingham. I had him 14th, even despite the trophyless season they had. Look, he's been the driving force for Madrid. Put agendas aside. If you hate Jude Bellingham, if you don't hate Jude Bellingham, just say because you're a hater. At number 13, I had João Neves. Look, colossal season from the Portuguese man. Did absolutely well in the Champions League. Yeah, fantastic signing made by PSG after getting rid of Ugarte. He did very well, and he's really helped PSG go up a level notch because of how he wins duels. For someone of his height to win the amount of duels he has is something sensational, and he's a midfielder that can hold their place in years to come. I had him 13th. I think he was so crucial for PSG. Yeah, in those big games, the way he gradually wins the duels, the way he progresses the ball forward. I had him 13th, and to add to it, the Nations League, even though he played out of position, I can't just look away from this season. At number 12, I had Gianluigi Donnarumma. Look, I know many people tell me he should be higher and all that. And I hear it. I hear it. He's been very, very crucial for PSG, especially in the Champions League knockouts. Yeah, made some massive saves against Arsenal, massive saves against Villa, massive saves against even Liverpool at Anfield, even though they weren't really troubled much. I had him in 12th because I can't look away from the first half where Donnarumma was letting in silly goals, making in cheap mistakes. Yeah, there was a time even Enrique dropped him for Safanov, and I can't look away from that just yet. And he didn't win even best goalkeeper in League One. He lost to Luca Chevalier, but I can't just throw away a season like that. I had him 12th in my list. 11th, I had Harry Kane. Look, congratulations to him. He finally won a trophy. Top scorer Bundesliga, player of the season Bundesliga. But I expect him to show it much more in the bigger scene. That's why I didn't have him in my top 10. I expect him to show it more in the Champions League. He didn't show up in the first leg against Inter. He did show up in the second leg. They went out a bit too early, especially even in the cups. But I can't look away. He finally won the trophy for Bayern. And congratulations to him. But I had him 11th because at number 10, I had his fellow teammate, Olise, who you can make a case Bayern's player of the season. He is been the driving force for that Bayern team, especially with the way he's driving that washed attack. Yeah, driving in the likes of washed Gnabry, Coman, Sane. All of these guys were washed. But Olise put this team on his back and has been carrying Bayern through. Look, he needs to show it in the big stages too, in the Champions League. But I think even in the match they lost to Inter, he showed up in both home and away. He didn't leave with a goal or an assist, but he showed up and was the driving force for this Bayern team. I had him in my top 10. I think for me he deserves to be acknowledged even more. I'm surprised how his season is just going away under the radar all of a sudden. But I had him in my 10th place because they needed to do it more on a bigger stage. Even in the Club World Cup, you can make a case he did okay against PSG, but I need to see more of him in bigger stages and going further in competitions. At 9th, I had Kylian Mbappe. Look, European Golden Boot winner. Look, put all agendas aside. He alongside Jude Bellingham, like I said, the driving force in this Real Madrid team. When everyone seems to be losing their heads during the Ballon d'Or incident, he basically has shown up for Real Madrid. He has been the only player that has put this Madrid team also on its back, attacking wise, and in 2025 he seems to be the only one turning up. Scored a hat-trick against Barca, scored a hat-trick against City, scored even in the Super Cup against Barca. Even stepped up massively in crucial title matches, even against Atletico. He has stepped up for Real Madrid, but like I said, he is the only attacker that stepped up. I couldn't have him higher because they didn't win a trophy, or they didn't, like, you can talk of the Super Cup, you can talk of the Intercontinental, but I don't think they were that big trophies as such. But I had him in 9th place. He European Golden Boot winner. Like I said, carried Madrid, but unfortunately his team let him down. In 8th, I had Nuno Mendes. Look, the way he has moved this season, you just have to respect it. The way he's putting attackers on lock, fairs, man. And he's had a colossal season at PSG. And you can make it, and you can make the case, best left back in the world. I couldn't have him much. I had him that high, 8th. I think he deserves way more respect. Look, he's always been a colossal left back, but he had that injury that left him out for so long. Then he was rushed back and looked out of place because of the injury. But it's good to see what a fully fit Nuno Mendes can do for the team. Yeah, very, very crucial for how PSG attack. And I had him in 8th. And number 7, I had his teammate as well, Achraf Hakimi. For a fullback, him and Mendes have formed a formidable fullback partnership. And also Hakimi has stepped up in big games so far. Yeah, in all the knockout games, he stepped up. Stepped up against Arsenal, stepped up against Villa, stepped up even in the final against Inter, and has been very, very crucial with how PSG progressed the ball down the right-hand side. I had him in 7th. He's had a colossal season for a right back. Best right back in the world this season. I had him 7th. Let me know if you would have had him higher or even lower based on what you see. But for me, had him in 7th. Because at number 6, I also had his teammate, Vitinha. Look, hear me out. This guy went from being a Wolves reject to one of the best midfielders in the world at PSG. The way he just controls the game with ease, the way pressure doesn't faze him a lot, is insane. And he's been very, very crucial with how PSG are able to progress the ball to the forwards in midfield. And it's also been crucial for Portugal as well, because you can make a case. Like, for example, in the Nations League, he came on against Germany in the semis. Portugal looked like a strong team when he came on. Came back from behind to win. He also featured for Spain, in the Spain versus Portugal final. Portugal looked like a strong team with Vitinha on the pitch. So this is a case of how important he is for both club and country. And need to stop the nonchalant penalty gimmick though. But I had him in 6th. In 5th, I had Mohamed Salah. Look, I don't know how people are debating this. Top scorer in the league, top assister. He won the Premier League. But for Salah, he only stepped up in one competition. That was the Premier League. In the Champions League, he was anonymous, both home and away against PSG. Even the Carabao Cup final, he was anonymous against Newcastle. But I can't just throw away his season like that, because I find he has been way, way disrespected. I can't throw away his season like that just because of the Champions League and the Carabao Cup final. Because based on the other attackers, he should be higher, but as well, you have to show it on the big stage. And he didn't do that. That's why he couldn't be higher. I had him 5th. My number 4 is Pedri. This is why I like saying, when it comes to players like Pedri, you just need to sit down and just watch the game. You don't have to come to judging the game using stats, because there are things you don't find in the stats metric, because many people will come and start looking at GA, spamming GA picks all over. But those who have watched Barca can tell you how every attack from Barca usually starts from Pedri. Look at how he progresses the ball for Barca. Look at his so-called pre-assists. Look at how he lays the ball for the attackers to eat at home. Even at times they miss a lot of chances. You don't find that anywhere. And he's not only crucial for Barca, but even for Spain as well. Was taken off against France. They nearly choked a 5-1 lead. Took him off against Portugal in the final. They didn't look like a team that was ready to gun forward. That's how crucial it's been for both club and country. And it's finally good to see that he will get the applause he deserves. But I think for me, I had him in 4th. But he's been one of Barca's best players. And here comes my top 3. Number 3, I had Rafinha. He has stepped up massively for Barca, especially in big games. Yeah, hat-trick against Bayern, scored against Real Madrid, stepped up against Atletico, stepped up against Benfica, stepped up against even Dortmund. Like, the guy has been, even Inter, the guy has been class for Barca in big games. And again, another player who I feel like he's had a redemption arc under Hansi Flick. Good, was number one to many, but I think third for me. Top player, had a good season, but he needs to show it for the Brazil national team though, because in his last 4 goals for Brazil, 3 of them have been penalties and 1 of them has been a free kick, a set piece. So he needs to show it more for Brazil. I had him third. My number 2, I had Lamine Yamal. Look, people will just come and spam 9 La Liga goals, 9 goals, without actually watching the game by its eyes, because for those who actually watch the game can tell you that he is Barca's best player. The way he has put Barca on its back, him alongside Pedri, Barca's most outstanding players. Yeah, the way he put Barca on its back even against Inter, that's just a proof of what Yamal can do. And those are things you don't find in the stat matrix. Yeah, he has been so crucial for Barca's best player for me. And the difference is between him and Rafinha, he has the spin performances to back it up. Yeah, albeit in the final against Portugal, where Nuno Mendes locked him up, he has the performances for Spain to back it up, both club and country. I couldn't have him any higher. Okay, I had him in second. For me, fine with me. And my number 1, I had Ousmane Dembele. Look, Barca fans can say all they want, but Dembele for me, rightfully deserved Ballon d'Or winner. The way he has stepped up massively for PSG in the big games, the way he has been the driving force for this PSG going forward, scored some big goals as well. Yeah, the way he has been driving the forwards of PSG as well, because the way he drops deep, able to interlink with the likes of Doué, Vara, Bacola, the way he's been able to press for the team, the way he defends for the team. I had him as the rightful Ballon d'Or winner, and he has the accolades to back it up. So that's just my number 1, Ousmane Dembele. So that's my 30-man shortlist for the Ballon d'Or. You don't have to agree with everything I've said. You can tell me where you want to change. Let me know down in the comments what would you change. Yeah, and some players who have had some colossal seasons have gone under the radar. Which other player do you think should have been nominated here? For me, the likes of Alessandro Bastoni should be here in this list. Julian Alvarez should be here. Mamouche also should be here. But let me know down in the comments which other players do you think should have been nominated. Are you okay with the list? Are you okay with the nominations as well? Let me know down in the comments. Subscribe to the channel, share, and catch you in the next one. Peace.